In the heart of central Kenya, the Gikuyu people once shared a bond with the land that was more than just farming. It was a sacred duty, a spiritual connection that defined their identity and ensured their survival. Before colonialism, every handful of soil was a promise of life, a legacy passed down through generations. This was a world of self-sufficiency, where the earth provided everything a community needed. But this ancient relationship was about to be shattered by a new kind of power, one that saw the land not as a source of life, but as a source of profit. Before the British arrived, the fields of Gikuyu land were filled with maize, millet, beans, bananas, and yams. These weren't just crops. They were the pillars of a strong, independent society. Families were fed, communities thrived, and trade with neighbors was built on mutual respect. The land was owned communally, a shared resource that guaranteed food security for all. But this way of life was seen as an obstacle by the colonial powers. When they seized the most fertile highlands, they brought with them a new vision for the land, a vision that served not the people who lived there, but a distant empire. They introduced cash crops, coffee, tea, and pyrethrum. These crops were not meant to be eaten. They were meant to be sold, exported to fill the cups and pockets of people thousands of miles away. African farmers were pushed, sometimes forced, to abandon the very crops that had sustained them for centuries. They were told this was progress, a golden ticket into the modern global economy. This cash crop revolution was presented as a pathway to wealth, a way to earn money and improve their lives. But for the vast majority of Gikuyu farmers, it became a beautifully disguised trap. The promise was simple: grow these new crops, and you will become rich. The reality was a cruel deception. The colonial settlers and a handful of powerful elites built and controlled the processing factories, the transport systems, and the export markets. They held all the power. The local farmers who poured their sweat and soul into the land were left with almost nothing. They worked day and night, cultivating coffee beans and tea leaves, only to see the immense profits shipped overseas. The farmer, once a proud owner of his destiny, became a mere laborer on his own land, trapped in a system designed to exploit him. You might think that after Kenya gained independence, things would change. But the colonial system was deeply rooted. Large corporations and a new class of middlemen simply stepped into the shoes of the colonial masters. They continued to dominate the market, buying crops from small-scale farmers at rock-bottom prices and then reselling them for fortunes on the international stage. The exploitation didn't end. It just changed its face. Imagine the frustration. Farmers were left with mountains of harvested coffee they couldn't sell. Payments were delayed for months, sometimes years, leaving families with no income to survive. To keep their farms going, many had to take out loans they could never hope to repay, sinking deeper and deeper into debt. And as more and more land was dedicated to cash crops, the traditional food crops that once guaranteed security began to disappear. Hunger, once a distant threat, became a harsh reality. The very system that promised wealth was creating poverty and dependency. The dream of prosperity had become a nightmare. The fertile lands of the Gikuyu were no longer feeding their own people. They were serving the insatiable appetite of a global market that cared nothing for them. This economic shift did more than just create poverty. It began to tear at the very fabric of Gikuyu society. The traditional values of cooperation and community, where people farmed together for the benefit of all, were replaced by a culture of competition. It became every man for himself, each farmer desperately trying to get a better price, to secure a contract, to survive in a brutal market. The sacred bond between the people and their Ithaca, their land, began to weaken. Land was no longer a spiritual heritage, it was just another commodity to be bought and sold. The soul of the community was being eroded, one coffee plant at a time. But this story is not just one of betrayal. It is also a story of awakening. Across Gikuyu land today, a quiet revolution is taking place. Many farmers are starting to remember the wisdom of their ancestors. They are realizing that true wealth isn't measured in export profits, but in the ability to feed your own family, your own community, and your own nation. They are turning their backs on the global systems that deceived them and are returning to indigenous crops. They are embracing organic farming and rebuilding local markets, reclaiming their independence one harvest at a time. They are proving that food is freedom. The journey of the Gikuyu people through the era of cash crops holds a powerful lesson for all of us. It reveals how powerful interests can disguise exploitation as progress, turning a people's greatest asset, their land, into a tool of control. But it also shows the incredible resilience of the human spirit. It shows that by looking to the wisdom of the past, we can find the keys to a more just and sustainable future. The balance between the land and the people who belong to it can be restored. It is a slow and difficult process, but it is a journey back to the truth their ancestors always knew. The land is not a factory for profit, but the sacred source of life itself. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, please consider subscribing to our channel for more deep dives into the histories that shape our world. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. See you next time.